having sold cars for years myself, prior to and during the internet boom, I realize now if I had had the knowledge and the tools that are in this room today back in the 90s, how much better could I have been? What could I have done differently? How would I approach my clients differently? And ultimately, how would I have increased sales at the dealership if I had knowledge that I was not privy to back then that we are to now? So this is a very exciting time, especially now that we're past the major dip. I don't like to call it a recession or depression. It was just a dip. We've all been there in the car business. We've all bounced back. Probably one of the most resilient industries in the economy, and it drives the economy. We are all very important to the overall success of this country's economy, and it is a good litmus test for what's going on, and right now we see things are good. So based on that, later this afternoon at 3:30, I'll have a session that goes into more detail about using the data today that is all over the internet, harnessing that data and using that to help us predict what's going to go on in our own dealerships in the weeks and months ahead. The beautiful thing with the internet is it took radio 38 years to get to 50 million users. TV, it took 13 years. Internet, it took 4 years to reach 50 million users. The beautiful thing with all three of these mediums is, or at least with one of the three, TV you can't track unless you're a Nielsen rating, which my company kind of considers itself to be the Nielsen rating of internet. Radio you can't track. Internet you can track every click, every keystroke, every link, everything a shopper does online can be tracked, and that is what my company does across multiple websites, 5,000 dealer sites, research sites, portal sites. We aggregate all that data, normalize it such that depending on where the data comes from, it's all unique to the source. We have to normalize that to one scale so that we're using the same measuring stick across all platforms. And it's amazing to see now what shoppers do from their first keyword all the way to lead submission, and what can we learn from that, what can we glean from that, and how do we keep our sword sharp. I like what Sue says. I always tell my folks at the shop, you don't know what you don't know. Never stop learning, never stop reading, never stop trying to find more answers to things you don't know. So don't think that there's information out there that you can't get to. The internet throws off so much data. We can learn so much from these shoppers. More than 50% of all the people in the world have never made or received a phone call. I thought that was an interesting stat based on there being 50 million internet users. Half of the world's population has never even picked up the phone and called anyone. Obviously, that's not here in the United States based on the way my phone rings, but that's an interesting stat. So when we look at data, data is everywhere on the internet. We get it from our main website, our OEM sites, microsites. Larry Bruce is here with his microsite. He does microsites. There's data that can be pulled from all these sources, portals. We have AutoTrader and CarSoup. You have banners that run on different websites. You have your phone companies, Century Interactive, these type of companies that do toll-free numbers on your websites. Of course, all your social media pages. The data is everywhere. It is easy to be inundated and confused with the amount of data that you can get your hands on if it is not normalized and put into a usable format, which is what we try to do. Now, before we go, let me explain one more here. There are two types of data we look at. We're looking at shopper data and we're looking at website data, and they each have distinctive purposes. Your shopper data tells you lead time. How long is someone in the market? How long does it take them to send a lead when they start shopping? What vehicles have they searched? Are they B-backs to the website? Have they been multiple times? B-backs are 3 times more likely to send a lead. So you want things on your website to bring people back to your site multiple times so that they send a lead on their second, third, or fourth visit. Typically, it's not on their first visit. Website data helps you understand your page loads. Which pages are most viewed? What's the hot buttons? We'll look at a click map in a minute that's very revealing. What are consumers clicking on? SEO and SEM, entry sources, what is bringing people to my website, and lead to visitor improvements. Lead to visitor is the common metric in the industry of all the visitors that come to your website. How many people actually send a lead? The national average right now is just under 4%. It's a very small number, But when you're looking at 14, 15,000 visitors to a website, average right now is just under 4,000 per dealer site, 4% adds up. If you can push that 4 to 5 or that 5 to 8% conversion, all of a sudden that's a huge increase in leads, opportunities for your salespeople to sell more cars. So let's distinguish between shopper data and website data and use them for the different distinct purposes. For example, let's take a look at the current state of the industry. Leads are on average are up 17% from June. Shoppers are up 6%, and inventory searches are up 10%. This is the first month, second month in a row, we have seen an increase in all three of those major statistics. For sales purposes, that's a beautiful thing. If searches go down, sometimes leads can go up, vice versa, but we have seen an increase in all three major categories: leads, shoppers, and searches. Let me give you an example of what data can show you. This is a graph from back in late fall of last year. You'll notice there was an extreme dip in September 2010. If that number, if you're a Toyota dealer, for example, that date might ring a bell. That was when there was there were major recalls with those vehicles in the industry. We can see how it affected consumer confidence instantly. Within the time period that happened, searches, leads, inventory searches, and leads, unique visitors all plummeted in that time frame. Ironically, it wasn't only on Toyotas. It was on every make in the industry. So what seems to be affecting one manufacturer or one type of vehicle actually can affect the entire industry. It's called consumer confidence. And consumer confidence can be swayed easily depending on what happens around the world. Earthquakes, for example, and tsunamis did not have a positive effect on consumer confidence. But what's nice about the human psyche is, along with not just auto shopping, but with everything that we do, things wear off in about 30 days. We kind of forget things in about a 30-day period. If something bad happens, we have a trial, a hurdle in our life, or something in the news we see, typically that stunned effect wears off in about 30 days. We can see the increase in all of those major metrics within 30 days after the extreme dip. So the message here is bad things don't last long. Good things tend to last a lot longer. It's interesting to see on the chart to the right, we can see per model which vehicles had increases and decreases during this time. And we do see that Mercedes-Benz was the only vehicle to have a 5-month increase in shopper activity even through that difficult time in the industry. Certain vehicles went up and down, certain vehicles stayed up, but you can see a nice trend with ups and downs, and this helps us understand, A, are my new cars going to be selling in the weeks and months ahead, and B, what pre-owned vehicles should I be looking at having on my lot or perhaps getting rid of based on there being a 3-month decline in shopper activity on a certain make or model. Interesting stat, 23% of all photocopier repairs worldwide are caused by people sitting on them. Now, I can tell you that will void the warranty. I can vouch that the warranty will be void when this happens. But you think almost 1/4 of all photocopy accidents are people sitting on them. What on earth is going on there? What are people sitting on copy machines for? So it's interesting. I throw these stats in there just to liven things up slightly, right? So 2000. This is what's important, and without using this as a negative factor. This is what we want to keep our sword sharp for. This is the reason why we want to increase our knowledge of the auto shopper, get to know the auto shopper better, and do a better job at not allowing technology and internet to take over the sales process. 85% of all consumers say their salesperson did not control the sales process, build rapport, or interview their shoppers in any way. I remember back when I was in the dealership, sales training was a 2-week rigorous period. I would train the salespeople. Of course, we'd hire 20. We'd end up with 2 that made it through that 2 weeks. But those 2 were sharp, well-trained salespeople. The walk-arounds, the meet and greet. I think technology has, when people come in with a handful of papers that they printed off from the internet, the salesperson tends to maybe get discouraged, or maybe they feel like they are, that the consumer's already informed. And perhaps informed in a way that we wouldn't have preferred. I'll show you some more stats that are encouraging as to that aspect. online shoppers, when they come in your dealership, are actually paying a higher profit than walk-ins who have never been on the internet and show up at your dealership and want to fender trade and negotiate. So internet shoppers are paying a higher profit now. They are the bulk of our shoppers. 86, 80, 88, 89% of everyone that walks through your door has been on the internet at some point. So we need to embrace this. However, we cannot let go of what we have always trained our salespeople to do, and that is a smiling face, a firm handshake, an excellent walk around, know as much about your competitive vehicles as your own, because the stats are that 88% of consumers said they received a poor presentation and or demonstration. 88%. Vehicle demos, to me, used to be the most fun part of the sale. The excitement you can build on the vehicle, showing them the inside impact door beams and everything that you could to promote the value of that vehicle. To me, we had contests every week for walk-arounds. That was a key aspect. We've kind of gotten away from that because we feel like people are doing that online themselves. But the fact is, there is no new car smell on the internet. You can't feel the leather on the internet. So when they come into your dealership, you want to go back to the basics, and that is a great sales presentation from a great salesperson. Let me go back one. So in looking at shopper data, I'm going to show you some slides of screenshots. This is a product that if you haven't already seen in the programs, every dealer attending today will have this product offered to them for zero charge ever. There is no obligation, no strings. This is a desktop download tool that allows you to see data from your website, data from your shoppers, but there is also aggregated data from other websites in the area, so you can see what your performance levels are compared to other sites. So I wanted to mention that before you felt like I was trying to sell you a product. This is a free product that all of you will have the opportunity to receive, and I'll have a slide at the end that shows you how to do that. But if we look at John Doe here, and we can see that this person has viewed multiple vehicles. The first line up at the top are all the websites this person has visited during his shopping process. We know which portals he's been to. We know he's been to the OEM site. We know he's been to different dealership websites. Although we won't tell you which dealership names those are, at least you know he is shopping around. The more sites they visit, the closer they are to purchase. The more vehicles they view, the closer they are to purchase. The second group of circles in there shows all the vehicles this person has looked at, not only on your website, but on sites prior to coming to your website. In this example, this is a Nissan buyer, or at least a Nissan shopper. He has only looked at Nissans. In fact, he's looked at 14 of them. He's looked at almost every car Nissan builds. At this point, he's not sure what he wants to buy, but we do know he's probably going to end up buying a Nissan. So when he comes into the dealership, I know now how to approach John Doe. I'm not going to go into a lot of competitive analysis with other vehicles because I know that he's a loyal Nissan shopper. I can see down below there every keyword this person has used during his shopping process. It's important to know not what only led shoppers to your website, but what key terms were used where your site didn't show up. Oftentimes, it's the most obscure keywords that you would not have thought of that are actually driving the most leads, not necessarily the most traffic. So you have to figure out what your philosophy is, what your strategy is. Do I want a lot of traffic to my website and roll the dice and play the numbers on how many leads I'm going to get, that 4%? Or do I want to go after targeted advertising and search key term placement and only use search terms that we know generate actual leads at the end of the day? Here's an interesting fact. And I'll show you some more about which keywords are used. Most keyword entries are, by a vast majority, are your dealership name or a variation thereof. If you're not optimizing your own website under your own name, that is by far the vast majority of what people type into the Google search bar. My wife is notorious for typing website addresses into the Google search bar. And I keep saying, honey, all you're doing is making Google that much more rich. You're not helping, you're not helping anything. The bar at the top is where you type the address. The bar in the middle is where you type keywords. But it's very typical. She's about the average internet user, maybe slightly below. But that's what people are doing, is typing in your dealership name or a variation of. But we want to see, for example, when people type in used Honda Nashville, that's a decent lead, or at least it's going to drive traffic if you're optimized under that. However, if they add the word price to that search term, used Honda price Nashville, they are 4 times more likely to submit a lead to your website. So just having the word price show up in their key term search is an indicator that they are a buyer more so than a tire clicker, I call them. I coined that phrase a while back. The tire clickers are good. They turn into leads later on. But if they have the word price in their key term search, they are further down the funnel, they are closer to purchase, and those are the type of people we can go after on SEO and SEM terms, much more so than generic Honda Nashville, which is actually not going to get you a lot of leads, but probably a bulk of traffic. We can see down below this person has submitted 3 leads to your dealership. He submitted 2 leads to a different dealership. You know you're being shopped. You know you're being compared. Oftentimes you'll notice that you pick up 2 leads and he's not submitted leads anywhere else. That means he's loyal to your dealership. That helps me approach this customer differently. So lots of information we can glean from knowing what shoppers do across their entire shopping process, not just what they do on your own website. Very interesting fact. We all, again, you don't know what you don't know, right? We all think we know who we compete against. We think we know, having been in the industry for years, you can definitely become experts, and you can use intuition and that 6th sense that dealers have to know, is this going to be a good month or a bad month? But data can prove otherwise. What is the most clicked vehicle before shoppers submit a lead on a Honda Accord? In other words, of all the leads we saw submitted, we track over 20 million active automotive shoppers in our database. We can track them over the course of many, many months and years. And we see the behavior change, and we see what they look at before. So we took everyone that submitted a lead on a Honda, and we figured out what was the most common second choice among those shoppers. Anyone have any idea what that car would be based on competitive analysis? You would think. Toyota Camry was mentioned. Definitely, having sold Toyotas myself, I competed with Honda Accord every day. What we realized was it was a certified pre-owned Mercedes E-Class. Who knew, right? Well, if you go online and research, you'll see that a CPO 2-year-old certified pre-owned E-Class is about the same price as a new Honda Accord. They have the same warranty with the extended warranty Mercedes puts on those vehicles. So people that start to have loyal to Honda Accords all their life and tend to like the reliability, all of a sudden Honda, no offense to Honda corporate, they've never been known for their sleek German styling. So when you're shopping around, if people think that they can drive up in church in a brand new, or what looks like a brand new Mercedes for the same price as a brand new Honda Accord and not lose any warranty, that's the most searched vehicle among Honda shoppers. It was a shock to me. But we call those bait cars, not from the old bait and switch model from the old days, but what cars can I have on my lot that will attract my type of buyer for the cars that I sell? Having a couple of certified pre-owned or a couple of pre-owned E-Classes on your used car lot might attract that Honda Accord buyer that we thought was going to compare us against Toyota Camry. We can buy banners on these search engines or on the portal sites for Mercedes and advertise our Honda Accords under Mercedes searches probably for cheaper than you can if you try to go after Toyota searches because of the bulk of Toyota searches. So there's lots of ways we can take that information and change our behavior to fit the consumer's behavior based on what we know that they're doing, and that's the beauty of the internet. We can also see, this is another screenshot of the tool that you'll be able to download for yourself. We can see inventory demand. In this case, Maxima on your website is the orange bar. The green bar represents aggregated data from other websites in your competitive area. We can see that Maxima shopping has dropped to 22% in this particular DMA. It's still about 36% on your website. Perhaps you have more Maximas in stock than most other Nissan dealers. That would be a good thing. Or if we watch this graph, perhaps Maxima demand in our area is lowering or dropping right before our eyes, and we would not have known that by looking at just our own website data. So we want to have a comparison point. You have to be able to compare yourself to something to know where you stand. I'm 6'2". Now you might not know that with me standing here by myself. If I were in a room full of horse jockeys, I would be tall. If I were standing next to the LA Lakers, I would probably be short. So without a comparison point, we don't really know where we stand, and this is what we're allowed to see now with this data. Xterra is the opposite scenario. Perhaps I don't have enough Xterras in my inventory to meet the market demand in my area of 27%, whereas on my particular website is 17%. Down to the granular level, we can see exactly by stock number what's hot, what's not, and that's what we call it. I call this pod the hot not pod. And this tells you, for example, this 2009 in the light blue area, 2009 Nissan Altima SE, stock number 34 SSW, is by far my most popular Nissan Altima among the bunch. What is it about that car that makes it click-friendly, shopper-friendly? Whereas this 2010, the small blue mark, piece of pie, is a 2000 Altima SE, probably time to start looking to get rid of that car. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't wait until that car hasn't been driven for a month. Click behavior gives us 45 to 60-day head start on making decisions than if we look at leads and people walking in our dealership. So by tracking click data, we now have as dealers the ability to be proactive in gathering and getting rid of inventory to meet consumer demand in our market for the next 45 days, and we've never had that capability. Website performance, lead to visitor. The orange line, again, is your website. The green line is the aggregated data of websites in your area. We can see, for example, if I'm an internet manager, I would have loved to have had this information. When my boss comes to me and says, where's my website? So where's my internet sales? You know, how are we doing? Why are we not performing well? I can say, look, actually, we are outperforming every other dealership in our demographic. We have a consistent line. However, on Monday or Tuesday, there was a plummet in our shopper activity on our website versus a nice increase within the DMA. Perhaps we chose not to run an ad that week. Perhaps we chose to run the wrong ad. Perhaps we were trying to advertise vehicles in the newspaper that we were trying to get rid of, as opposed to vehicles that we know the consumers want to buy. And so we can look at this to see what worked and what didn't work in our advertising strategy and what not to do and what to do more of. So when we look at the purchase model of a online auto shopper, the numbers vary drastically. I'm from the Southeast. I know most of you probably didn't know that. I'll come up here and it seems like there's an accent. Everyone up here has an accent. So being from the Southeast, if I'm saying words or phrases that don't make sense, just stop me. But we do things slower. This graph in the Southeast is extended out to about 22 weeks average shopping period, where this is looking at 14.7 weeks for the average automotive shopper. In the Northeast, in New Jersey, New York, this is about half as long. So the shopping process, even in demographics, varies greatly. So these averages don't really tell us a whole lot about our market, but it does tell us about how to approach shoppers during their shopping process. We know that at week 7.6, they're deciding on a particular model. At week 10, out from purchase, they start actively researching vehicles. So we can see where they are in the process now. We're able to see this, and we can approach that person differently based on where they are in the process. At week 14, when they're deciding it's time to start purchasing, we don't want to try to drag them in for a test drive, slam them in a closing booth, and try to make them buy a car. We're going to lose gross. We're probably going to lose the customer. However, at week 6.3, when they start visiting dealerships, if we know from their dealer profile, from their shopper profile, that they are that far in their process, now we know we have someone closer to purchase than a 2 who is just starting out in the industry shopping. Fascinating stat here. More people are killed every year eating shark than are eaten by sharks. Again, just when you thought it was safe to go back to the sushi restaurant, it's not. It's safer to go in the water than to go to a sushi restaurant and eat raw shark. So there again, my point is, what you think is obvious, what you think you know, what might seem obvious to all of us, often can be the exact opposite. And that's what we look at with the data. Interesting facts here. Again, I'm skipping around. The session this afternoon will have much more flow and go into more detail. But look at our mobile usage. You can see a spike starting from April of this year, May, June, July. August, this graph, August was not over at this point, so there's a decline, but it also went up. Mobile usage has skyrocketed in the last 4 to 5 months, and it is a trend that we didn't even see coming. We did see nice growth from January to April, but all of a sudden, look at the spike. Mobile usage represents about 10% of total automotive shopping at this point. and has increased by several 100% even over the last 3 months. We can see that the devices, iPad, iPhone, lead the way with the yellow graph and the green. However, Android, it's hard to decipher an Android phone from an Android Zoom. Android is lumped together in one category. It's right up there with the iPad and the iPhone in the blue category. So if you don't have a mobile strategy, if you don't have a way for people to send a vehicle details page from your website to their mobile phone, no more do they print out the details page and use that as a virtual brochure, we used to call them. They want to be able to text that information to their phone, and as they're out traveling around, they have all the cars that they've looked at, everything is on their smart device or their iPhone or their Android. So now more than ever, having a mobile site, having a mobile presence, having a mobile strategy has grown in importance dramatically over the last several months, and will continue to do so as new personal devices are developed and rolled out. Am I okay on time, Andrew? Come yank me off the stage whenever you get tired of hearing me. So recently, another interesting stat, we completed a study for a large domestic OEM. We were looking at, of all the leads that get submitted, what happens to them? Do they buy? Do they die? Do they leave the market? Do they come back in the market? Do they change behavior? We looked at third-party leads from March to August, January, February, March. Now we're all the way in September, however many months is between there, several. We're looking at between March and August, 39% of all third-party leads were still shopping. Now what happens at the dealership? We cherry pick the hottest leads. By nature, we have to. So we take leads that come in that month. We try to work them as hard as we can, thinking that they're the fresh, most active buyers. We work those people for 30 days, 45, maybe 60 days. When they stop responding, when we don't hear back, when we're not able to get them into the dealership, we tend to give up on those leads. We tend to mark those as dead in the CRM, or we move on because we now have 2 more months of fresh leads. So it's just a constant battle within the dealership to stay up with the newest leads to make sure that they get handled. We cannot abandon the old ones. As we see, there are huge opportunities in reviving old leads. Third-party leads from June to August, 44% were still on the market. We looked at leads from an OEM, from that OEM site since January. Leads that were submitted through the OEM site, 44% were still shopping around. Most people had given up following up with those people. They did not submit a second lead for us to re-engage that person, but we know now 6 months later, 8 months later, they are probably closer to a purchase than ever before, and no one's following up with them. That's no fault of the dealer. There's a lot of leads to handle. My point is to have a strategy that rehashes old leads, 6 months, 4 months, 5 months old, revisit those people in some way through your CRM system, through a phone call, through your BDC, because those people will come back to life, 44% of them, shop around and end up buying a vehicle. The bounce rate, let's look at where people come. We know that on dealership websites, when we track about 5,000, we can see within that body of dealership websites the bounce rate from the home page, meaning people that come to the home page and bail out without ever doing anything, is still about 62%. It's a very high number. That's not uncommon among most websites. Google can lead you to a site that is not pertinent to what you were looking for, therefore you bail out. However, people that enter the website through a SRP, a search results page, or a VDP, a vehicle details page, are twice as likely to send a lead. They send a lead in half the amount of time, and the bounce rate is half that of the home page at 32%. So if we optimize our inventory, you have to understand people don't necessarily they don't set out looking for you, the dealership, they set out looking for a vehicle. The vehicle is the bait online. The more places you can get your vehicles posted, the more places you can put your vehicles online to get exposure, the more leads you're going to get to your website, traffic to your website, ultimately leads, ultimately traffic that turns into leads if we bypass the home page and get them into our inventory as quickly as possible. Or we have a home page that is dedicated to driving people into inventory, and I'll show you a click map of how that works in a minute. So very interesting stat to see. We spend a lot of time dreaming up what we want our home page to look like. You have website experts here that can tell you it's not what the site looks like, it's what it does, it's how easy it is to find inventory. You can have 6 or 7 buttons on the home page that say view our inventory, and that is nothing but good. Let's look at top sites visited by automotive shoppers. This is very interesting. We looked at, of all the 20 million auto shoppers that we track, where else do they go? What else do they do? Google, #1 visited site. Go figure, right? However, Google doesn't advertise you. They advertise, you type stuff into Google and it spits out websites. But that is the most used website among all automotive shoppers, so it behooves us to be optimized properly. Facebook, 52% of every shopper that comes to your dealership websites have been on Facebook at some point. We don't know that they went on your Facebook page necessarily, but we do know that there is a strong presence, or to have a strong presence on Facebook is important for your dealership. Do not sit there and count leads from Facebook. You will be sorely disappointed. There is about a 1.2% direct click-through from Facebook to your website, but there is a 52% overlap in traffic to Facebook and your website. There is an indirect effect that is far larger than that of any direct effect of any of these websites. So having a positive image on Facebook is very important. Just don't evaluate these companies or these websites by counting leads. Look at it as overall awareness of your dealership and your vehicles. YouTube is the same way. 34% of all automotive shoppers have been on YouTube. We work with UnityWorks, and I've talked to Phil many times, to be able to correlate a direct link from a video off your website to your website is a smaller number, but to say that you shouldn't have very well choreographed vehicle walkarounds and videos of your dealership on YouTube, you're hurting yourself. That's a great place to be. It's an easy place to be, and there are companies that specialize in doing exactly that right here before you, and there's a 34% overlap. eBay Motors, 25%. Look at automotive portals. We look at the Car Soups of the world, 24% overlap. There again, don't grade your lead providers or the portals by the number of leads that are submitted through that portal to your dealership website. There is a much larger effect. There are phone calls. There's an indirect effect of people going to those portals 6 months later, 2 months later, 2 weeks later, showing up at your website and submitting a lead on the same car they looked at on that portal website. We can see that in our data. So there is a larger effect that auto portals bring to the table and bring to your website than if you just count how many leads they send you on a monthly basis and divide that by how much you pay them. You'll lose a lot more by getting rid of that resource than just that number of leads. MSN, Amazon, KBB, CNN, AOL, CarMax showed up in the top 20. CarMax, if you're not familiar, is a used car supercenter. They have it's kind of like the Walmart of automotive of pre-owned dealerships. That website is really fantastic. It is simple, easy to use, inventory directed. People go on CarMax, search for sports cars, figure out which car they want, and then go to Google and type in that car or come to your website and look for it. So CarMax is doing us all a favor as being a search engine for vehicles. They don't sell near as many cars as they get visitors, but CarMax is a huge website. What we want to look at is, I'm sorry if I go back one, our opportunities as a dealership. Facebook, YouTube, eBay, automotive portals. We look at Craigslist, Edmunds, Bing, AOL. The websites in bold type are places where we as dealers can advertise for cheap or small money or free in many cases, as in AOL Autos and MSN Autos. So huge opportunity here to get our inventory out in front of the masses, to bring them into our dealership through a search results page or vehicle details page, increase our lead conversion. Didn't cost us much at all. Average, let's look at the stats. This is interesting what we've done for Car Soup. Huge website. Portals play a very important role in driving traffic. Most traffic is not driven directly from the portal to your website. There's a 2 or 3 week gap between when people visit a portal and visit a dealership website. What happens is they go to the portal, they find a car they like, they go back to that portal several times, they look at that same car, they take a couple of weeks off of shopping or 3 weeks, then they go to Google, type in your dealership name, come to your website, and submit a lead on that same car. So the portal doesn't get the credit for having driven that person to your website or exposing that vehicle to the public, where they would have never found your website probably on their own because they were searching for a vehicle. They found it on the portal. They just were delayed in visiting your website and submitting a lead. Average daily traffic to Car Soup, 14,000 unique visitors. If you want to put your cars in front of a lot of people at one time, that's the way to do it. The average visitors to a dealership website right now is just under 3,000 visitors per dealership website. We can increase that by 5, 6, 7 times, put ourselves in front of more people, then that is a key to getting more people to our websites. Searches per shopper, 15 vehicle searches per shopper. They generate about 470 leads per day through that website. If we had 470 in a month at a dealership website, we would be thrilled. So there again, we want a piece of that action. We want to go where the consumers are. 14,000 leads a month. You can have your share of those if your vehicles are posted on a site that consumers will go to before they go to a dealership site, and they are 4 times more likely to submit a lead at your website if they have been to an automotive portal any time prior. Now there again, we can't see the direct impact all the time. We don't know that they came from Car Soup directly to your website, but we know if they've been on Car Soup and then to your website, you got a 4 times higher chance of getting a lead from that person had they not been to a portal at all. So that brings us back around to the good news. When we started out saying how our opportunity with our salespeople is to continue the training, continue to educate them on this data, to teach them how to approach our shoppers in a better way. I think we've kind of gotten away from that. 71% of consumers say they bought their vehicle because they liked, trusted, and respected their salesperson. It is a handshake, one-to-one human interaction that sells cars. The internet is not going to sell the car for you. It's your salespeople, it's your managers, it's your dealership reputation. 50% of all customers said they bought on the spot when they felt they got a good presentation or demonstration. So vehicle walkarounds, vehicle presentation, we can't lose sight of what got us here over the last 60 years, and that is selling the product that we love and that we endorse and that we support and we have on our lots. One more slide, then we'll finish up. This is an interesting click map. This will be available to all of the dealerships. If you download the Insight product, I'll give you information on it in a minute. We will also do for you a click map of your home page. There is nothing more revealing to me than visuals. I play with data all day long. The numbers are very compelling, but when I can see for my own self what's happening, it's very obvious. You can't even see the word used. It's the second button at the top because it is so covered up with green clicks. Every green dot is a consumer click. This is 1.5 weeks worth of consumer clicks. Any more than that on Car Soup, the page was full of green. It didn't make sense. So within 12 days of tracking consumer clicks, we can see used car button is worn out. Used vehicles is the button under search inventory is just peppered. The drop-down menu, select make, select trim, select model, is a blob of green. My point here is to say inventory is the backbone of a website. They want to see a car. That's why they're shopping on automotive portals. They're not there to look at coffee pots and teapots. They're there to look for vehicles. The faster we can get them into inventory, the easier we can make that, the more ways we can get them involved in inventory, which is the way Car Soup is designed. Inventory, inventory, inventory. That's why they produce more leads. That's why they produce more opportunities for the dealers. So to wrap up, complimentary data dashboard, what we've looked at, you'll see the pods below. Great little tool that we've designed just for dealers. I wanted this to be a tool because of all the data that we collect. Manufacturers have a lot of use for our data, as well as many vendors I work with in this room. Having been a dealer, I wanted this data to be available to dealers for little to no charge. With the relationship I have with Larry and Car Soup, we are offering this to your dealers, to their dealers, and to dealers who visit this conference for zero charge ever, no auto renew, no strings, no nothing. This allows you to see a lot of what we talked about. Your data from your website compared to other websites around your area to get a better idea of not only your website performance, website data we talked about, as well as shopper data, the shopper profile pod that tells us where else has this shopper been, what other cars have they looked at, how long have they been in the market, how can I approach them in a better way when they show up at my front door. So if you'll visit the Car Soup booth at some point, you'll get your promotion code. They'll give you more directions on how to download this product. The website is here, but you'll have information that you can take home with you that tells you exactly how to do this. and that is our gift from Larry and I and Car Soup to you as the dealers, not just for being here, but to hopefully make a difference in your daily business. I appreciate the opportunity very much. Enjoy the rest of the show. I'll be around to answer any questions. Look forward to talking to each of you.